Time for August TBR. Hello fellow readers and readresses, and welcome to the 6th installment of The Lord of the Reeds, the most precious TBR game. If you're not familiar with The Lord of the Reeds, I highly advise you to go and watch the first installment of the game over here to learn a little bit more about it, but let me tell you, it's very simple, so let's go through the main mechanics really quick. We have 2 six-sided dice that we roll 5 times to get 5 books. How we do that is by moving around this map over here. We roll the dice, we move around the map, we land on a tile, and we pick a book that corresponds to the prompt that we get from this tile. Speaking of tiles, there are several kinds of them. The first one is the empty tile. Once we land on this one, we're gonna dip into my bookshelf jar. This jar contains all the books that are on my bookshelves and I haven't read yet. We're gonna pick a book from here and we're gonna read it. And by we, I mean mainly me. Next, we have the 2023 TBR jar tile. Once we land on it, we're gonna dip into the 2023 TBR jar. This jar contains all the books that I have deemed a must-read for 2023 for one reason or another. Next, we have the series jar tile. Once we land on it, we're gonna dip into my series spot where I have all the series that I'm currently in the middle of reading and I haven't DNF'd yet. So picking a series from here will mean that I will have to continue with said series, whether I want it or not. Next, we have my prompt card style. Once we land on it, we're gonna select one of my prompt cards. I have 54 of these with a different prompt on each of them, and we're gonna have to select a book to correspond to this prompt. And then we have all the genre tiles. We have graphic novel, fantasy, sci-fi, non-fiction, historical fiction, mystery and thriller, and manga. I believe those are all. Once we land on one of these, we're gonna have to select a book to correspond to the given genre. Then we have the +1 book tile. Once we land on it, we're gonna dip into the bookshelf jar and we're gonna add an extra roll to this month's TBR, which happened twice last month and I really didn't like it, although it ultimately ended well, so who cares. Next is the bookstore tile. Once we land on this one, we're gonna have to go either to the bookstore or to the library, and I'm gonna have to pick a book from there to read. And last, but definitely not least, we have the missions tile. Once I land on this tile, I'm gonna have to select one of my mission cards. There are overall 9. On each of those cards, there is a specific mission with a specific prompt that I have to fulfill, and once I do that, I unlock one of the characters from the Fellowship of the Reed. There are obviously 9 characters for those. Once I select all of them, I'm gonna treat myself to a book haul because I'm currently on a book buying ban. Up until last month's TBR game, I had unlocked 2 characters, Gimli and Boromir. And last month, I landed on the mission tile again, and I got the mission Gathering of the Fellowship, which prompted me to finish a series. And I did. And the series I actually finished was The Lord of the Rings itself, and I unlocked the character of Gandalf. Isn't he adorable? So now, with Gandalf's character, I have 3 unlocked, and I only have 6 remaining in order to fulfill the Fellowship of the Reed. Let's put him up on the board. So that's basically the game, and that's how I play it. And if you'd like to play it yourself, I have provided printable version of all the materials necessary for the game in the video description. And if for some reason you don't want to print or you don't have the opportunity, I have provided also a digital version of the game, which is also accessible through a link in the video description. Enough talk already. Let's get into playing The Lord of the Reeds for August 2023. And we're gonna start with roll number 1. And we have a 7. The last roll for last month landed us on the mission style, so let's move 7 from here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And we landed on the 2023 TBR jar. Alright, 2023 TBR jar. Last month we managed to finish 2 books from my 2023 TBR, and I am so happy with that. I loved one of the books, the other one I had mixed feelings on. You can see that in my July reading wrap-up. Now, let's see what we're gonna read this month. This is gonna be the book. Book number 1 is... The Dragonbone Chair. Oh my god, this is lovely. The Dragonbone Chair by Tad Williams is a classic epic fantasy and the first book in the Memory, Sorrow and Thorn series, which I've been meaning to read for a very long time, and actually I was already planning to pick up this month, and you will see a little bit later why. I am super excited about this one. I don't know anything about it. I've heard people say great things about it and that it's a staple in the classic fantasy genre. It is a chunker, around 700-800 pages, but it doesn't really matter. I usually prefer bigger books anyway, so it's all good. I am so happy with this first pick. Great start for this month's game. Time to go for roll number 2. And we got an 11. Oof. Okay, so I got 11 twice last month, and both times it landed me on a +1 book tile. So let's see what it brings us this month. Let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Yay! We landed on the prompt cards. As I have stated before, prompt cards is probably my favorite tile in this game because it does give you a prompt, but it's usually very generic and vague, and you can pretty much have a lot of freedom in picking what you're gonna read. Just my favorite thing, obviously. Let's see what we're gonna get this month. I'm gonna turn the prompts towards you so that I don't see them, and I'm gonna select this card. Whoop. And the prompt is a book with titled chapters. This is a little more specific than I like, I would say, but let's see what that's gonna bring us. I'm curious. Okay, this took a while, and I think I'm shooting myself in the foot a little bit with this book, but who cares? The book is Oathbringer by Brandon Sanderson. This is the third book in the Stormlight Archive series and is a reread for me. I've been planning on rereading this series for the longest time. The chapters do have titles, as you can see here. Evidence. There you go. Now this book is what? 1200 pages long, so it is a chunker, as you can see, but I've been wanting to reread this for the longest time because I have the next book in the series, The Rhythm of War, on my 2023 TBR. So in order to get to it, I really need to reread this one. I reread the first two books earlier this year, and I absolutely adore this series, so I don't mind spending the time reading it. It usually doesn't take me long to get through these books, despite their size. Again, probably not the best decision considering that I will also have extra TBR for this month, which I will tell you more about later in this video. But anyway, so far, so good, I guess. Time for roll number 3. Roll number 3, here we go. And we have a 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and we landed on an empty tile, which means bookshelf jar pick. Okay, I have mixed feelings about the bookshelf jar because on one hand there are so many choices and that's exciting, you know, ooh, what is gonna happen, so many possibilities. On the other hand, there are some books on my bookshelves that I would say I'm not the most excited about. Let's see, this one. Atomic Habits. Really? Alright. Atomic Habits by James Clear is a non-fiction about creating sustainable and healthy habits for yourself and improving your life by not only being consistent, but creating sustainable process for living a successful life that doesn't just rely on goals, but again, on the process of achieving those goals. I read a few chapters from it. I think I reached page 70 from the book, and I was enjoying it while I was reading it. I just couldn't get into the habit of actually reading this book because there were other more interesting things. So now I guess I'm gonna finish it. I don't mind it. I did, as I mentioned already, enjoy what I read so far, and I think it was explained in a pretty nice and easily digestible way. So let's see if it continues being as nice and if this time I will actually manage to stick to reading it. It's so ironic that I couldn't maintain the habit of reading a book about maintaining habits. Oh well. Choice number 3 was okay, but it wasn't something that I was necessarily looking forward to. I don't mind nonfiction books. Matter of fact, I quite enjoy them, but they're usually not of the self-help nature. Either way, we'll read it. Time for roll number 4. And we have a 10. This better not land me in a bad place. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Oh my god! What are the odds? So we landed on the missions again, and honestly, I don't hate it. It's probably helped by the fact that this tile actually takes up 2 tile spaces, but who cares? Okay, let's mix them nicely. Which one? This one. Oh, what does it say? The Bravery of the Small, the first published work of a favorite author. Okay, now I gotta think through my favorite authors. This took a long time actually finding on my bookshelves. I have many authors that I admire, but very few that I could qualify as favorite authors. The first of which that comes to mind is, obviously for those who have watched at least one video on this channel, is Brandon Sanderson. However, I have read his first published work, Elantris, already multiple times, and I do love it, but I didn't want to reread it just yet. Another favorite author that I can think of is Margaret Rogerson. However, I have read all but the last of her published works, so it wasn't gonna work as well. And I decided to go with one of my very first favorite authors in my life, and that author is Jane Austen. And her first published work, according to Google, is Sense and Sensibility. I don't know the plot of this book. It's very famous, but I have never read it myself, so I'm very much looking forward to doing so. I found this lovely secondhand copy in a local bookstore, and I purchased it immediately, like 2 years ago was it? And now I finally get to read it, and I am super happy. What a great choice, I hope. Okay, book number 4 has been selected. I am so happy with this choice, and now let's go for the probably last roll for this month's TBR game. Let's go with roll number 5. And we have a 3. 1, 2, 3. What? We landed on nonfiction. Alright, first time. Okay, so I have never landed on nonfiction before, and we already have one nonfiction on my reading list, so this is going to be very unusual. Let me look through my list of nonfictions that I own and see what we're going to read this month. Okay, I looked long and hard through all the nonfiction books that I own, and I was debating which one to pick. I had a few choices, and at the end I decided to drop them all and go with one that is actually on my 2023 TBR, and that is A Lion's Tale by Chris Jericho, Around the World in Spandex. This is a nonfiction written by Chris Jericho, which is a very famous WWE fighter from back in the day. I feel compelled to correct myself here. He's a wrestler, not a fighter. I think right now he's in the AEW. He's one of my favorites from back in the day, and I think he's hilarious, and he has this presence that just captures you. I can't describe it. I love his stage performances, I love his personality, and I've been wanting to read this book for a while now. It was also recommended to me, and so I'm definitely picking it up this month. It's gonna be an interesting experience. I wasn't expecting to read it just yet, but here we are, and yeah, I'm excited. And so to summarize, my August TBR is going to include Atomic Habits by James Clear for Random Bookshelf Jar Pick, Oathbringer by Brandon Sanderson for a prompt card to read a book with titled Chapters, Around the World by Chris Jericho for a nonfiction book, The Dragon Bone Chair by Tad Williams for a 2023 TBR Jar Pick, and Sense and Sensibility by Jane Austen for a mission to read the first published work of a favorite author. Now, that's not gonna be all, because I do 2 monthly challenges every single month. The first one is the Buzzword Reading Challenge created by Kayla from Books and Lala, and the prompt for August is body parts, which is why I was already planning on picking up Dragon Bone Chair because it has the word bone in the title. I know it's kind of precarious because it's not a single word, it's part of another word, but I'm gonna count it because, well, who cares, honestly. So we have this one that doubles, and the second reading challenge I usually participate in is the Adventure in Eldia Monthly Reading Challenge, which is created by G from Book Roast. Now this month, meaning August, we're taking a break from that because we're doing the Aurelium Autumn Equinox, if I'm not mistaken, and for that I'm gonna have a whole separate TBR because there are other books that I will have to select for that. Look forward to that video. It should be posted on my channel within a day or two after this one. And last but not least, I have started another book already in July, and that is Grave Peril by Jim Butcher. I have not finished it yet, so I will add it to my August TBR. And that's it for now. It is a solid list of books to be read, and considering that I'm gonna have another TBR to add to this one, I'm almost 100% sure that I won't be able to complete it all, but honestly, who cares? The idea is to read some good books, and I am looking forward to doing just that. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please let me know if you're playing the Lord of the Reeds. I will be super happy to chat about it, to see what kind of books you're getting, to see what's your experience with the game. Let me know if you've read any of these books, spoiler free of course. I would like to hear your opinion, and I'm also super curious to know what's on your August TBR and what are you looking forward to the most. Thank you so much for watching, and if you'd like to see my July reading wrap up, check out this video. Bye!